Hi, Sean.
Hi.
If we could start quickly with your team news, any changes from the players you had available at Bournemouth?
Yeah, I've just made a note actually. So we've got a couple of knocks. Angus Gunn, who's not currently playing, but obviously part of the squad, he's opened up his knee ligaments. Woody's going to be possible for the Leeds game. He won't make this one. We'll have to see how that goes. Ola's making good progress. Zinchenko's a no at the moment, unfortunately, a bit longer than we thought. Backwards still a no, but making good progress. So, yeah, unfortunately, I have to read them off there so I don't forget them, and so we're hoping no more occurs, that's for sure. A few knocks, but nothing other too serious at the moment.
Okay, and in terms of the players you have got available, the work you've been doing, you said after that Bournemouth defeat, they'd have to put some hard work in. I actually saw on Tuesday they were doing a bleep test. I don't know kind of what you found from that. And
yeah, it's not really a story now. All it is I explained it at all my clubs that I've been at, going back to Watford even, that I've just got loads of data on a test that we've done many times. So it's not an exact thing. It doesn't mean you're super fit or not, but it gives us a baseline to work from. So we introduced that to the players just because we had a window of opportunity. Obviously, it's difficult when there's so many games. And just to get my measurement, because you don't want to always go on game data, because we had a big shift in game data from the Porto game to Bournemouth. But you've got to go on your eyes and your feel, but equally it's nice to have something that you know the stats and the facts of. So, yeah, there's work to be done, but a few of them shone and a few of them did really well, which proves their baseline is there, and some there's work to be done, but that's quite standard for coming into a new situation.
I spoke to Morgan Gibbs-White this week. He was saying that he was very much welcoming the demands you're putting on them. He is somebody who probably attracts a lot of focus because he wears the armbands. There was the bid from Spurs in the summer, etc. How do you get the best out of somebody like him? How important is it you get the best out of him?
Well, I certainly can assure you we're not just trying to get the best out of him, we're trying to get the best out of everyone. We're trying to add our attention to detail, what we choose to use, what we think is relevant to game planning and game performance. I must say he's a terrific pro. He comes in with a smile, he wants to work, he wants to, he's infectious with what he does. And we've got a number of them, and it is beginning to grow. I think we're trying to get everyone to open their minds to what we want to do and to accept some of the hardship of it, because there is some hard days. We want to make sure that we can get them up to speed, or our version of it. But there's a good base to work from. I make it clear, you're never miles away from where we want them to be, but they're not quite there yet. But him amongst a number of others have all taken to it really, really well and want to progress and want to push forward for myself, for the team, the staff and for the fans, of course, as well.
Ruben Amorim was asked today about the comments you made on the overlap back in May. I guess the discussions were around him saying that he wasn't going to change his style, and you said, with 4-4-2, I think you would have won more games at the time, and he actually agreed today. He said, yeah, he probably would. And he also said, as a pundit, I want to hear them making strong opinions. It's boring to listen to otherwise. You kind of pleased that you didn't take offence?
No, it's not about that. I think that I'd like to think most managers do a bit of homework on each other as people. I didn't question him as a person. I don't know him. I'd never do that with managers. I get on with most of them away from football. We have a couple of words on the sidelines now and again. But equally in that same vein, it's unfortunate nowadays for us, whether you're a pundit or a manager, clickbait kills everything. It changed the whole story. I'm sure the Man United have got a big enough press department to watch that whole interview, because I equally said I want managers to be given time. I don't like seeing managers coming out of situations, because I've had it. And I equally said a pre-season, and they said what would be a fair timeline. I actually said half a season to continue the work he was doing. But unfortunately, that doesn't make the story. We all know that. And equally, on the second point, I think everyone should know, and I'm sure people have told him, I have maximum respect for all managers, not just Premier League managers. I know managers from all across the football spectrum, and it's one of the hardest jobs probably in sport, or certainly I think so, and that's varying sports around the world. So I'm pretty sure that his media department will have made it clear to him. And at that point, don't forget as well, the points tally I was suggesting, maybe the basics would have worked better. That was my suggestion. And they have changed their style, so fair play to him, the management side of things, his coaching staff, the players. They have changed their style. Not necessarily his beliefs, but just their style. They are being a bit quicker to play forwards and play longer, a bit tighter and getting back into their shape and things like that. So that's management, that's coaching. that doesn't mean he's changed his whole philosophy. It just means he's adapting it to the challenge that's right in front of him. So fair play to him. That's the job as manager. Is you've got to be as flexible as you can when needed. Of course, there's a time to stick with everything you believe in, and there's a time to be flexible. And so far, he's shown a bit of flexibility in what he was talking about, and yet they're getting results. So fair play to him. I just don't want it to be fair play to him when there were supplies on Saturday, quite obviously for obvious reasons.
And talking of the respect you have for other managers, there was another manager this week who was showing his respect to you. I think Pep had some words to say about you. Did you hear what he had to say?
No, I tend to not read much of the media, especially what I say. It's meant to just let you print it and get on with it.
He was basically being asked about some of the tactics being used by certain teams in the Premier League this season, whether it be long throws, longer balls at times, set pieces, and he brought you up as, he was like basically saying this is nothing new, and actually Sean Dyche was one of the very best, and what you did at Burnley, etc.
Well, I thank him for his words. I mean, he certainly knows the respect I have for him and his works. I've told him on several occasions, away from the game, we have a bit of private time. I think I must make it clear, I often leave that to the set piece to my staff. So I'd thank them on his behalf. But at that time, I was probably having more input. But over the years, the staff, the demands of the job grow. My favourite pet moment, actually, apart from the Lionel Messi story, which I told recently, is he once said, he gave me the biggest compliment ever. He said, playing Sean's team is like going to the dentist, and I don't like the dentist. And I said, it was brilliant. So it's the best compliment I've ever had. Because when you're little old Burnley playing Man City, he meant it as a compliment, by the way. Yeah, that's my point. He wasn't being funny about it, and I got it. And he said to me after, he said, fair play, we always struggled at their place, but at Burnley it was always a tight game. But that's by the by now. I'm here at Nottingham Forest. I want to do everything I can to make us successful. And if we can use set pieces, we certainly will, I can assure you. And equally in the bigger picture, I did reference it on my sort of coming back to these club interviews. It's funny how football does change, because I was just with Tony Pulis a couple of weeks ago doing a podcast, and he's been lauded for long throws. Trust me, I remember he's getting hammered for long throws. So that's football and that's fashion. And obviously I'm not going to say skinny jeans and flared jeans too many times, because last time there was a meme going out with me with skinny jeans and with flared jeans on. So is it by magic? But you understand the point.
Yeah, exactly. Just as fashion comes around, so does
exactly. Football has to change, because if everyone goes into the block defence, how are you going to break that down? You've got to play quicker, you've got to play longer, you've got to get more cross in, because it's hard to break down a block defence. Everyone's counter-tackle. How do you counter the counter-attacking? It doesn't move as rapidly as people think, but it does move. And the shifting sands of the tactical side of the game, equally, I said recently, games have been going like 140 years. Certainly for the last 80 or 90, the tactical plan, the tactical format has been tried by everyone and everything. The detail is important now. The analysis, the detail, the stats, the facts, that's what's changed. But the actual formatting, it hasn't changed that much. If anyone can be bothered, if they read Inverted the Pyramid, it's a very good book, and it will explain lots of different tactical formats from many, many years ago. And it's worth a read just to remind yourself that every new guru of football you go, actually, there's been one of you somewhere before. But the modern game insists on the way it is, so I just roll with it.
Great, thank you, all the best.
Thanks, Kirsty. Sam for PLP.
Hi, Sean.
Hiya.
Last week you gave the players credit for the amount that you had to cram in and the information that they had to absorb in such a short space of time that you had with them. This week, how beneficial has it been in terms of the improvements that you're seeing with the squad, having a full week of training with them uninterrupted from European competition?
We're still changing a lot, so they've been really good this week, and we've added in some new work with them today. The idea of cramming, because it's more about the risk and reward of it, because you don't want to keep players there too long, because we've got a lot of games coming, not so much this week, but the ongoing traffic that's coming our way with the games. Informing them enough that they can make sense of it and apply it, and not too much where it's just too much for them to remember. So it's always a tricky one. It's always a fine line, but we're trying to add in lots of different things, not just the thing about tactics, about it could be set pieces, about psychology, about dietary requirements, and all the professionalisation of players in our style, of course. I need to make that clear. I never question the managers, as I was just suggesting about Ruben. But I do question our way of working and how we can imprint that onto the group. So it is an ongoing process, and I think it's still going to take a bit of a while till we get everyone kind of on board with it and nose pointing in the right direction, more in the sense of understanding it. I must make clear they're working really hard, so there's no problem with that. It's just the understanding of what we want, the detail of how they can deliver it. And that's an ongoing process. It always is, but it certainly is at this period because we are still cramming a lot into them. And they're doing great with it. They're listening and trying to apply it.
Looking ahead of Saturday, Manchester United having a good run of recent form at the moment. Cunha getting his first goal for United in the Premier League. A really strong-looking attack that's coming with some momentum behind them. What's going to be key for your Forest squad to break that down?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they got a big result against Liverpool, and it seems to just quieten the noise down and give them a bit more freedom to go into games. From our point of view, we've got to get back to the Porto performance. We stepped away from it at Bournemouth. I was questioning whether I should have played this team, should have played that time, but the performance against Porto was so good. And I thought, well, I've got to give that another half, at least 60 minutes, see if we can go and perform like that again. As it happened, we didn't quite have the sort of physical strength to carry it through. But it certainly wasn't a lack of them trying. It's just getting up to that speed that you need and the energy and the performance and the consistency within a performance. So we're certainly going to have to do that. You know, you're playing Man United anyway, regardless. Whatever the noise was and is and how it's changing, you know, spent a lot of money over the last few years, £1 billion or whatever it is. I don't know the exact number, but it's a lot. So it's still got good players. And if they're getting better results, then that breeds confidence. So we've got to change that around. I was looking at the stats because I have to be realistic with how we're trying to change things and move things forward. From the last 16 games, that being last season, this season, the points tally isn't great. It's like 13 points. Only so many wins in that. So therefore, that's a process that we've got to change. But a lot of this group have had that before when it's the other side of that winner momentum, what that brings. So we're trying to revive that kind of feeling amongst them where they can take anyone on. We certainly showed that against Porto, because people forget, and I did reference at the time, top European side, current form, hadn't been beaten. I think they'd won 6 in the league, 2 in the Europa League, and only conceded 1 goal or maybe 2 goals. So that was a really important performance against a good side. We've got to maintain and be consistent with them performances. So that's what we're looking for. If you get performances right, I've been saying it for years, it doesn't guarantee you a win, but it gives you a better chance if you're certainly towards your top end of your performance level. And against teams like Man U, that's what we've got to do.
You spoke as well last week about raising the minimum of the players both physically and mentally. In terms of yourself and your staff around you, where do you start with that, with building that in the players? And is it something that fans can expect to see having an instant impact? Will we see improvements straight away from that side of things with raising the minimum on Saturday? Well,
hopefully you want to have an instant impact. We did against Porto, the newness, the freshness, the new voices had a really positive effect. The game against Bournemouth, I just felt we flatlined a bit physically and emotionally maybe, because the Porto game was a big occasion for the fans, for the club as well, for myself, of course, my staff, and also the players to get back to delivering that high-level performance. It's finding that level of consistency daily, and getting the players to produce that kind of level on a daily basis, so it just becomes something that they can do. Also, educating the new players, of course. The new players, some of them had 3 managers in a very short space of time. Other players have had 3 managers in a short space of time. So, there's been a lot of change for them. So you can't expect it, or you hope it works straight away, of course, like the Porto game. But to expect that to just, be hand in glove straight away is it's not unachievable, but it's difficult to achieve that. And I think most managers would say that. And Ruben Amorim's a good point in case. It's taken him time, and he's gradually getting there now after quite a bit of time to do that. We want to fast track it. That's our plan anyway. And of course, that's what we've got to do. The league table isn't lying. That's where we're at. So I'm sure the players, that is the truth of it. Of course, there's always if that would have happened, and a decision here and a decision there. We had it at Bournemouth. Everyone knows that. With a really poor decision, they can go against you. But we're still there. So therefore, that's what we've got to affect, first of all. And that can only come from good performances, but also good prep, good training ground prep, and the attitude towards the games, which I've shown many times, particularly at the City Ground over the last few years, to go and take on whoever you're playing.
One last one from me. Earlier this week, we saw you presented one man in particular with something special from milestone that he hit, your club captain, Ryan Yates, 250 appearances for Nottingham Forest. How significant is it to have a character like him around the club and his role on and off the pitch?
Yeah, he's been terrific. I mean, I've known him from outside of the management zone when I was on the opposition. But no, what he is around the group as well. You know, look, you want them to deliver out there, of course, and that's where they really make their names, these players. But some also make it from inside the camp and the club and what they do. And he's a fantastic professional. He's taken on everything we've offered already. He's always disappointed to not be playing, but he takes it, like you would hope a true professional does. He takes it, he cracks on with training, and he's always ready. And that's, what we ask of all the players, but he's certainly a shining light for that. And when he does play, he gives it his all. And I think that's been apparent to everyone at Nottingham Forest.
Thanks, Sean. Best of luck for this
Thank
weekend.
you.
Thanks, Sam. We'll go to Owen from BBC.
Hi, Sean.
Hey.
You talked about living locally, running into people when you're out and about. Have you been running into Forest fans over the last week or so?
I haven't been out. All I do is work. Trust me, it's been a lot on. I literally work, go home, eat, work, go home and eat. So that's it. I did pop out with my lad Max the other night. Actually, I did have a curry with him, partial to a curry. But yeah, I've hardly been out. So I've hardly seen anyone outside of the club, to be honest. And I mean that sincerely. Other than family, that's been it, really. But generally speaking, then I do look forward to seeing fans when I'm out and about. I'm always open with them and, they're open for their questions if they want to. There's no problem with that.
And it's now 448 minutes of Premier League action without a goal for Forest. What can be done to change that?
Well, unfortunately, as I suggested a moment ago, it's been, I have to check what the past has been, and the now and the future. And the recent past over the last 16 games, so I think they've returned 13 goals. So, it's not like it's like a goal machine. How we can change that, how we can adapt it. Obviously, we're missing some very important. Woody's become a very important player. That's been quite apparent by his stats and his facts. And that's a loss. But then on the other hand, that gives other people a chance. It gives them a new chance. T's got a new chance. Igor's got a new chance. Kelly's getting back to true fitness. But, these players have got a chance, So we want it to be open-minded. Yes, we want the players who have, rightly so, deserve the big name, including Woody and Ola's done ever so well. Zinni's new to the club. He's a good player, these type of players. But equally, it opens up a door for someone else to come in and be their version of them. So, as many people who have that freedom to go and play and take it on, then we want that. And we want that open-mindedness as a team, to go and score goals. I can assure you I've just spoken to them today about it. There has to be, we had to affect the defensive side. I think everyone knows that because things were slipping in too easily. And now we've got to find the balance and get the attacking side right. So I think that's an ongoing process. But I've certainly assured them this morning that's our aim. It's one of them strange things, actually, about being a manager. He's always said, I'm a really defensive manager. Trust me, if you work with me, everyone's saying, no, he's always talking about attack. This is slightly different because we've got to get the base right. But once the base right, we constantly talk about how many ways we can open up the opposition, ironically. It comes down to players, but it comes down to us as coaches to get them in the right places to go and deliver.